Hello, Global Theater. My name is Gerry Fialka. Today's July 11, 2025. Want to thank Rob Grant and his amazing podcast, I'm Probably Wrong About Everything. Also want to thank Emily Winters, our mutual friend, who indirectly introduced me to today's guest, Carolyn Berger. Carolyn Berger's right here at the Fialka Funny Farm. So good to see you, Carolyn.
Thank you, Gerry.
How's that framing?
That framing is fine.
Good. The first question is, what is the best thing for a human being?
The best thing for a human being?
Yep.
Is the feeling of a lack of stress.
Lack of stress. How cool is that? How do you accomplish that? Do you have any secrets?
Well, you'd have to cancel everything. But what I noticed, if I can elaborate a little bit here, is that during the lockdown from COVID, the feeling that I didn't have to do this, that, or the other, that I was excused from this, that, or the other because of lockdown, left me free in ways that I didn't feel before, do not feel now. And it was the stimulus for me to begin writing short stories.
Oh my God. So it started you off.
Yeah. So now when I think about it, I have mixed feelings about COVID and lockdown. In one sense, I realize people lost their lives, people lost their livelihoods, people had their health ruined for life. But I also remember I felt stress-free.
So true. I would take
and I long for that feeling again.
Oh God. I would get on my bike in the morning and there would be more wildlife in the streets and no cars. At 6 a.m, there are usually hardly any cars, but no cars. And I'm like, have we gone to heaven?
There was the number of cars on the street that there should be at any time. The air was cleaner. It was quieter.
It's amazing.
Well, in spite of all the tragedy that also happened at the same time.
Yeah. But that's going to happen inevitably. That's what life is. You fall and you get back up. This is the main thing I learned from studying James Joyce Finnegan's Wake, is that you can turn a breakdown into a breakthrough, a rejection into a redirection.
Making something bad into something good.
That's it.
Yes. And when I can, I try to do that. Sometimes it's hopeless, but
But then it was clamped onto us without our choice. COVID, boom. And then it blossomed into this thing, because that's how I've done nearly 700 interviews in 5 years. Wow. Whereas before that, I did 300 over 25 years. So it increased because all you have to do is hit a button.
Yes.
And you're in my house and I'm in your house, and it's as simple as that. What is your favorite form of information? How it comes into you?
My favorite form of information, I guess if I had to choose, would be person to person.
Yeah.
At this point in time, with all the technological advances, I would have to say, as much as I have a great deal of criticism of the world that we have come to be, I have to admit that looking things up on my phone or my computer is extremely convenient.
Oh, yeah.
But, person to person, there is nothing that can replace that.
Yeah, you're so right. I agree. And you know what? McLuhan said this years ago. He says, we'll just be able to call up somebody and ask them the question, anything. And now I just word anything and AI tells me immediately. But the old school was, since I go to the library every day, was you go to the library reference desk and you go, who invented this? And they go, I'll check. And they turned around and pulled a book down and go,
right.
Oh, this is it. So that was person to person. We could go on into the encyclopedia on the shelf and look it up ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
But it is an amazing thing.
The librarian could give you the more sources for your question, for answers to your question. That's true.
Good. You really get it. So the next question is, why do you think humans collect or gather information?
Because one, they're curious.
Yeah.
Two, they have to make decisions, and the more information you have, the more stable and responsible your decision for what you're going to do will be.
Yeah. Do you think this need or want to collect information is more innate or more invented?
Well, at this point in time, I think that there's a good deal of invention. I mean, people can't keep their hands off of social media, for instance, which is something I never do.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I think people are naturally curious and naturally in need of information so they can make informed decisions.
Yeah. Do thoughts create emotions?
Yes.
Yeah. Fill in the blank, Carolyn. I don't know what I think until I...
What? Where did you pick that one up? I don't know what I think until... Well, I think it would depend on the context. If it's something that needs, like I say, information, then I might not know what to think about an issue or a situation unless I know more about it.
Yeah. Until I know more about it is good. Until I know more about it. You know, this woman from Ireland a couple months ago, I says, I don't know what I think until I, and she goes, rant about it for 30 minutes.
That doesn't help me much. It relieves stress. I do a lot of screaming at home because I live alone. I can get away with it.
Yeah.
It does relieve stress, but it doesn't necessarily solve problems.
Yeah. And McLuhan says, I don't know what I think until I say it. Joan Didion says, I don't know what I think until I write it. So, you know, my answer was, I don't know what I think until I ask someone else what they think. Then I know what I could think, possibly think.
I don't know what I think until I have enough information to form an opinion.
Yeah. Can humans think without language?
I don't know.
Yeah. Now, that's really good because I want to tell you, saying, I don't know, I can't answer that is totally welcome. Going on tangents, stories, or anecdotes is totally welcome. In other words, you don't have to answer the question.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, but
can I amend?
Oh, of course.
Before language, I don't think we can say people didn't think.
Yeah.
So maybe it is possible to think without language, but it's something that we've been speaking for so many millennia that for us, it seems like that's not possible, but evidently it is because people lived before they spoke, as far as I know.
But as far as we know or think, but we don't know because here's another question that came up recently. The New Yorker had an article about, can babies dream inside the womb, or do you have to be outside the womb and have experience to dream? So your guess or hunch?
Well, a baby in the womb, if it is going to dream, is only going to dream. Its mind is only going to generate dreams based on what it experiences in the womb. And of course, we can have no idea for sure. Maybe science will figure that out someday, but we have no idea for sure what those things that the baby might be experiencing might be. So it's hard to imagine that.
That's Robin Williams, the comedian, called it womb service.
He was an extraordinarily talented person.
Really good.
I mean, just there are some people in this world who just are so good at
Yeah.
what they do.
Oh yeah.
And Robin Williams would be one of them.
Yeah.
People like R. Crumb would be one of them.
We're the same.
I mean, I can't think of anybody else at the moment. There are other people, but I just can't.
Well, here's what Chomsky says. Language is not just words. It's a culture, a tradition, a unification of community, a whole history that creates what a community is.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do when language doesn't work? When language breaks down, what do you do?
I think the only thing left in that case is either action or allowing yourself to be in stillness until such time as you regain a hook to language so that you can continue. That's about the best I can say for the moment.
No, that's good. Your observations of humans in general, are we more thinking beings or more feeling beings?
I think I would have to go with feeling.
Yeah. These are two questions from Alan Turing in the 50s. One is thinking a function of the soul.
Isn't he the one that broke the code?
Yeah.
Say that again. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's all right. He's a pioneer in computer science, and
there was a movie about him.
There's a great movie about him, really good. Okay. Is thinking a function of the soul?
Okay, we got to back up on that one.
Yeah.
I personally, and I don't mean this in a negative way, I personally question the existence of the soul in the sense that, for instance, religion usually frames it.
Yeah.
Say the question again. I got lost.
That's all right. Is thinking a function of the soul?
I don't think thinking can be a function of the soul if I believe that, if I don't believe in the existence of the soul in the religious sense. If I think of it as my spirit, as a living human being, then of course thinking is involved.
Yeah, that's good. So the second Turing question is, can machines think?
Well, this is what I said to someone that I know who is really, really good with computers. I said, computers cannot think. They can just process.
Yeah.
And I think I would have to go with that for now. It's frightening for me to think that we might come to the point where machines could not only process, but think.
Yeah.
Because unless we have some kind of a backup to deal with that, we're going to be in big trouble.
Yeah. Do you more pursue happiness or more pursue meaning?
Oh, happiness. Screw meaning.
Screw meaning. That is good. But Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning, his book, he says happiness doesn't tend to last, meaning tends to last. How do you react to that? I'm not saying he's right or wrong, but
it's true. I mean, meaning probably does last longer than happiness, because sometimes we're happy, sometimes we're sad, sometimes good things happen, sometimes bad things happen. I'm still going for happiness.
Yeah, no, I love that. Screw meaning. I love that. Okay. Does the brain more detect consciousness or create it? Like, is consciousness there bubbling away? Are we more so detecting it or more so creating it?
I think it's a function of the brain. That's my opinion, but I'm not a scientist.
Yeah.
I could be dead. Like you say, I'm probably wrong about everything. But my impression, as I think about it, is that consciousness is some kind of a brain process that I don't understand.
Yeah. But see, that's what I'm after too, is your guess, your hunch, your impulse. So that was beautiful. But I love it. What's faster, speed of light or speed of thought?
Dang, that's a hard one. I would tend to think light, but maybe not.
Yeah.
Maybe not, because your thought is like boom right there. How fast is that?
That's faster than the speed of light sometimes. So Audre Lorde, the poet, said you can't dismantle the master's house using the master's tools. Her colleague Yvonne Rainer said, oh, you can if you expose the tools. What new tool do you suggest? It doesn't have to be tangible. And it's basically, I'm asking you, what tool do you most gravitate towards? You can apply them. I sort of open questions with cute quotes sometimes. It doesn't mean you have to apply the quote. You put the questions into the context you want. So I'm basically saying, what tool do you most gravitate towards?
First of all, I need a definition of the master's house.
Yeah, master's house is like, I think she's talking about white supremacy, but we could say consumerism is the master's house. You've got to buy this. The government telling you have to do this is the master's house. It's sort of like authoritarianism. We can't dismantle the authority. You can't dismantle your parents' authoritarianism using their tools. Is what she said. Yeah.
Okay, so then from what you're saying, it sounds like the master's house in this case is any concept.
Very good.
Now, what was the question?
What tool do you gravitate towards in dealing with any concept? Or just what tool do you most gravitate towards? And again, not tangible. It doesn't have to be tangible tool.
Like a hammer or a saw, that kind of thing. Well, if the master's house in this context is a concept, it would seem to me that thinking, maybe reasoning something out, asking yourself questions, imagining possibilities would be the tools that would best apply here.
It's great. I would say you're saying imagination is one thing, reasoning and imagination, both. What toy do you gravitate towards?
When you asked that question, without even thinking, the first thing that came to my mind was a slinky.
Oh my God, I get that answer. I love slinkies.
Toys? Jeez. I mean, there have been toys that I've experienced that I really liked, like doing it on one of those big table crossword puzzles. I really liked those.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
That's
but
good.
I remember the slinky because, who wouldn't like a slinky?
Slinkies are a super toy. McLuhan learned from a poet that artists are the intent of the race. They're broadcasting and detecting the hidden psychic effects of our inventions, so we might learn how to cope with what we don't like about our inventions. So, Carolyn, I asked you the question Marshall probed his whole career. Why do we ignore the hidden psychic effects of our inventions, even though the artists are broadcasting them to us?
Gerry, I don't understand the question.
Yeah,
you lost me way back there somewhere.
But I'll make it easier. Sometimes artists, dancers, painters, musicians tell us something that is a little deeper than the surface of the piece of art. It's maybe a little deeper. Why do people tend to ignore the hidden message of art? Is sort of what the question is.
Well, a lot of times you just don't know what it is. I remember a long time ago, my mom and I visiting a museum.
Yeah.
And we decided that we would kind of play a little game. We'd go by each of the different paintings, and we would state to each other what we thought the painting was trying to communicate.
Great.
But if you imagine any mother and daughter or any person doing that, they're all going to come up with different answers.
Yeah.
Because an art piece is not a sentence with a period.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of places you can go with what is the meaning here, and if there is a meaning here, how is it useful to us, or how can it be damaging?
Yeah,
that sort of thing.
That's really beautiful. Now, do artists have?
You're tough, Gerry. I have to say, you're making me think.
Dude, you're doing amazing. Do artists have moral obligation?
As artists or as people, or both?
Yeah, you're answering a question with a question. You win. That's what this series is about. Inventing new questions.
Well, if
in context you want, which one do you want? Yeah.
Well, an artist is a person, so of course they have moral obligations.
Yeah.
Well, if I play a word game here, a person makes art. Therefore, the person is an artist, but the person is still a person. Of course, they have moral obligations.
Yeah. Are you more afraid of new ideas or more afraid of old ideas?
I think it's half and half. Some old ideas are really good. You don't want to discard them.
Yeah.
Some new ideas are really frightening. I mean, some new ideas, for instance, I really rebel against the whole cyber world. I have a computer. I have a phone. That's fine with me. But it's not a way of life for me.
Yeah.
But one of the new ideas that in my mind looms in our world is that this sensibility will take over. And that new idea, I think it's really dangerous and really frightening.
Yeah. Can you conjure up your earliest memory ever, or one of them? I'm glad you're
okay, Gerry, you ready?
Yep.
I believe I was about 2 years old.
Yep.
Maybe that's maybe I was younger. I was in my crib and I was playing with my own excrement.
Oh, yeah. Is memory more a curse or more a blessing?
I would have to go with blessing.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes there are negative memories. We all have them, but
yeah.
I certainly wouldn't want to be without memory.
Yeah. Tell me someone within your immediate family who had an impact on you, and what specifically was that impact?
Someone in my immediate family?
Yeah.
Well, that would be me, my mom, and dad.
Yeah. Who? Well, tell me what you mainly get from your mom and what you mainly get from your dad. Just like one thing.
Okay. From my mom, I got moral responsibility. From my dad, I got, not that my mother was stupid, she wasn't.
Yeah.
But from my dad, I got smarts.
Yeah. Now, the same question outside your immediate family, someone who had an impact on you, and what specifically was that impact?
I have said many times to his sister that my longtime on-again, off-again boyfriend, Aaron Goldberg, was the person who had the single most influence on my life outside of my parents.
Wow. And what'd you mainly get from Aaron?
Well,
you say?
I got smarter. I got more aware of things. I got more aware of the art world. I started to learn, although I didn't realize it was happening, how to think about artistic activities and how to write. Not that we spent about 40 years screaming and yelling at each other and breaking up and going back, but
yeah.
I think that answers that question.
No, that was good. So, did your parents raise you a particular religion?
My father was Roman Catholic, but he never went to mass unless my mother imposed guilt. My mother was Protestant, and she was responsible for my religious education. I grew up as an attendee of Disciples of Christ, which is an American-founded, at that time, more liberal Protestant religion. I believe it was founded somewhere back around 1800 or so. And so that was the religion that I was brought up on. So on very rare occasions, I would, like when we would visit my father's family in Montana, we would go to mass with my aunts because they were really into it.
Right. Do you pray?
No.
If God exists, what would you like God to say to you after you die?
See, I told you it wouldn't hurt. I think I probably would say, you know, the happiest thing he could probably say is, okay, time for just kicking it.
Oh, nice. That is good. You know what 80% of people say? Oh, you did a good job. It's like, okay, so, you know, that's what they want God to say to you. You did a good job. I mean,
I think considering that I'm a human being, God couldn't have possibly said anything else.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm doing a bad job. Yeah. I'm not doing an excellent job, but I'm not doing a bad job. But I wouldn't even worry about that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like, hey, let's time to kick it. I love that. Okay. Do evil people exist, or does evil use people as a vehicle?
Okay, say it one more time so I can make sure.
Do evil people exist, or does evil use people as a vehicle?
I think evil is an activity.
Yeah.
And there are people who indulge in it to a great degree,
Yeah.
or to a lesser degree.
Yeah. Well, the real hidden question is, how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? So when somebody's doing something you feel is evil, you kind of deem them as an enemy. What do you say to your friends? Like your friends being bullied, they want advice. What would you say to your friend?
Well, what I've done in my life, if somebody was really, you know, bad energy, is to get away from that person, or remove that person from my life.
Yeah.
And in some cases, some people were nastier than others. Sometimes all you need to do, one person in particular said something, and I removed that person from my life. There are things, many people don't understand. There are things that you don't do, whether it's one sentence or a big project, because when you do these things, you change everything forever.
Yeah.
So don't do it.
Yeah.
Either that, or if you're going to do it somewhere else.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Like people write nasty letters or emails. Don't mail it. Just write it. Get it out of your system. You don't need to really, you know. But I mean, it could be an apple go. Well, it's more like after that step, some say the criminal does something wrong. Gregory Bateson, the anthropologist, says, does the criminal gets caught, and does he go, oh, my criminal skills weren't up to snuff, I got caught? Or do they have a revelation, oh, I did something morally and socially wrong? So I mean, basically, does punishment work?
Well, when I was a little kid, if my father threatened me, it worked. However, I don't think that punishment is a guarantee by any means.
Yeah. So, Carolyn, walk us through your tipping point where you kind of decided dance was your calling. Did you go to dance classes because your parents told you to, or you go, that's what I want to start pursuing? Sort of walk us through. Did you study it in high school and college? Where's that tipping point? You go, that's my calling, or one of my callings.
My parents sent me to dancing school when I was about 4 years old.
Yeah.
And the reason they sent me was because they thought that if I took dancing lessons, it would give me more social grace and confidence when I was older.
Yeah.
I studied dance at a local studio from a woman named Aura Cameron from when I was 4 till I was about 8. Then she closed her studio and somebody else came in and taught, but I wasn't really interested in continuing. Then my grandfather said, I'll cut you a deal. I'll rent a piano for 6 months. And if you take to it, I'll buy you a piano. So I studied piano from then on. Then when I was about 14, I decided I really wanted to get back to dance. And I went to study with the very vaudevillians that had taught my original dance teacher, Aura Cameron. And I studied with them until I was about 20.
Wow.
Then I got into a show in college and there was just no time. So I didn't do that for a while. Then I studied acting for a while. And then this may seem a little sprawling, and then someone did something in the acting class. And I said to myself, that's it. This is my last year. And I quit. And I was working in an office for an insurance agent, a really nice guy. And I said to myself, I do not want to sit behind a desk for the rest of my life.
Right.
What am I going to do? And then a friend of mine said, why don't you try art modeling? So I did.
Yeah.
That's where I met my boyfriend, Aaron Goldberg. And that's where I became exposed to women who were taking modern dance classes. So I went back to dance.
Yeah.
And it was modern day, it was old style Graham technique.
Yeah, I was just going to say Martha Graham.
Yeah. And then I started taking ballet. And since that time, I've had ballet,
Yeah.
modern, jazz, tap, flamenco, belly dancing,
Yeah.
figure skating, some tumbling, West African dance. That's how that was that.
That's pretty thorough and really articulate. I appreciate all that. Now, you also told me that you've choreographed. You've made up dance yourself. You're a dancer. They show you how to do it, but you've also choreographed. A screenwriting teacher told me great art is when you can clearly see the intention of the maker. Stanley Kubrick says the opposite. Great art is when you can clearly not see the intention of the maker. When you're choreographing your own Carolyn dance piece, what role does intention play in your creative process?
It depends on the style, on the particular dance. I might create a dance that expresses a particular emotion.
Yeah.
Or emotional response to an experience.
Yeah.
Or it might be a dance that expresses a sensibility just for the pleasure of watching it.
Yeah.
So it might be varied, like that. There's a dance that I would like to restage that I did about 40 years ago. I'd like to restage the first part of it in a project that I hope will get going. Currently, I study ballet at the Murat Dalkayev School of Ballet.
Okay.
At Wilshire and Alexandria. Wilshire and Alexandria in the Equitable Building. And we've been talking about starting an adult section. They have adult classes there, but it's starting the possibility of having an adult performing ensemble. And there's this one particular dance which I created purely for the pleasure of watching it. You're not getting a message, so to speak. And I would like to stage that dance as my first contribution to that project, if we should ever be able to get that going at the studio.
Great aspiration. It's beautiful. Now, Duchamp said there's no art without an audience. How much are you thinking of your viewer when you're creating your own Carolyn dance piece? How much are you thinking of the consumer, the person in the audience?
Well, if I'm rehearsing one of my own dance pieces, I am the audience.
Yeah.
I'm making the decisions, making corrections, cleaning, rearranging, changing something, deleting something, to make whatever the effect is I want, a message or just a sensibility, more clear to the audience. I'm being the audience. So I guess in a sense, I'm thinking about the audience's point of view the whole time.
Yeah. Besides yourself, how much are you thinking of the other people?
What other people?
People who would be sitting in the audience
Oh.
watching.
Um,
The consumer, the audience
well, I
member.
try to like, I try to like incorporate that into my view of what I'm working on, because there's no way that I can, every person in an audience is going to be different and have different sensibilities,
Yeah.
different responses to whatever I present. So I can only kind of be a pretend conglomerate as I make decisions artistically while I'm rehearsing a dance.
Yeah. Very good. Now let's go to writing. When did you kick over to writing your short stories? Was there a tipping point in your life?
There certainly was.
Okay, what was that?
Lockdown.
Oh, you did talk about that. So in lockdown,
Yeah, see, I used to.
did you grow up writing poems and,
No.
and stuff at all?
No, I mean, other than general education writing classes in high school and college, I've never had any formal writing training at all. But I used to lay in bed at night. I'd wake up at 2 a.m. and I would imagine, I knew I had stories, and I would imagine telling these stories over a microphone at some story club someplace, like people do.
Really?
Yeah. And then when lockdown came, I went, wait a minute. You know, I can't go anywhere. I can't do anything, but I can write my stories down. And I began to write stories. And the one that you heard at the Emily Winters Memorial was the very first story that I wrote.
Oh, wow.
Which is only one page.
That is so cool. So,
and then it's over 60 short stories. And then because during a good part of my life, it was believed that I couldn't drive because I'm incorrectibly legally blind. So I took the bus a lot. Well, you can just imagine all of the things that I observed and experienced. So I started writing that as well. So I have like maybe over 60 short stories. And then I have my, what I call them, walking backwards and street jazz and, you know, stories from riding the bus and waiting at bus stops and the things that I've observed and experienced. So and it was all triggered by lockdown.
That's amazing. So you took a bus here?
I debated. Okay. I found out later, around the late 90s, that there is a special program for low vision people. And I did get a full license. I can drive wherever I want, whenever I want. It almost killed me. It was a really horrible experience that I will never forget because a lot of people treated me really badly, but I got a license. So I have a car. I debated today whether to bring the car to do the bus.
Yeah.
But some of the people that I know who are involved with the adult program at the Murat Dalkayev School of Ballet, one of them gave me a book to read. And I thought, if I take the bus, I can read the book. So I took the bus so I could read this book that he had recommended. And so that's how I made the decision for today.
Now, are you hoping to publish your 60 short stories, or it doesn't matter to you? What's your feelings?
Okay, here's the problem. I live in a country that refuses to establish universal health care.
Yeah.
Having a little trouble making the connection, aren't you?
Yeah.
Okay, here's the connection. Because I am federally registered as an incorrectibly legally blind person, I have Medi-Medi. If I publish my stories and I make money off of them, I have to report it.
Oh, I see.
And they will punish me through Medi-Cal. They will punish me. I live in public housing.
Yeah.
They will punish me there. So,
well, just put them out as a free chapbook, or you know what? Publish them on Medium.com. It's like Life magazine for free to anyone. So you just type it up, you hit a button, and it's on Medium.com, and anybody can read it. So I put a lot of my essays there.
After this is all over, can I write that all down?
Oh yeah, and in the Venice,
I have another question for you anyway that I want to do after this is over.
In the Venice Beachhead too, I'm going to give you a copy of the new issue. That's how I publish my writing. I just write every month, and we're always looking for content.
Okay, that's information. Give me that information after this is all over, and I'll write it all down.
Good, good.
Fantastic.
Okay, now McLuhan says everything we invent extends some humanness, like knife and fork extends our teeth, shutter in a camera extends our eyelid. Maybe non-tangible, say religion or philosophy, extends consciousness. What does the writing utensil extend for you? Whether it's a pen or a keyboard, what humanness does it extend?
My mouth.
There, that is good. This is Milan Kundera. He wrote a book called The Unbearable Likeness of Being. That is why I love writing, because the character I'm writing about can go further than I can. I'm like, yeah, right, that sounds romantic, but how, if I take this pen and write a character on this paper, how can that character go further than I am?
Mm-hmm.
I'm asking you, it's how?
Well, because let's say I write a story and there's a character in it who does this, that, or the other. It might be a character who does something I either, one, don't know how to do, am afraid to do, something that's not yet humanly possible. Those are ways that your character can go further than you can.
Yeah. That's good. Let's stay on writing a little. This is a poet critic, Helen Vendler. She just died. I write to explain things to myself. Any thoughts on that?
Well, if I had to explain it to myself, I couldn't write it. So that's clearly not the case. My writing, I guess, is to explain experiences and thoughts that I have to other people.
Yeah. This is David Mamet. Art is a product of the unconscious mind. Now, we've been going for like 40 minutes. I think we're both been pretty conscious this whole 40 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
But even the neuroscientists, linguists say, oh, you're operating 80% unconsciously or subconsciously. But Mamet's saying art is a product of the unconscious mind. Any thoughts on this? How conscious of you, how conscious are you when you're in the writing mode? And I mean, are you striving for that? You know, just suss out.
Well, I'm fully conscious.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like I'm in some dream world or I'm daydreaming or I'm high on something and I'm just sort of.
Yeah, because I love this new one I got. This is Brian Eno. Play is how children learn. Art is how adults play. You know, the process.
Yeah, well.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Art is how adults play reminds me of how Aaron and I thought about theater, like when we would pretend things, when we would stage things. It's fun.
Yeah.
You know? And that's kind of what that reminds me of.
Yeah. It's also an artist said, art is making your problems other people's problems. What do you think of that one? Like writing is making your problems other people's problems.
I'm not necessarily writing about my problems. I mean, I might be, but then I might not be.
Right. Because I was like, art is making your joy other people's joy. It could be that too.
Well, I think better said is art is making your for the other.
Right. Fill in the blank.
Yeah,
Whatever.
it might be your joy, your
Yeah.
sadness,
Yeah.
your information,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah. But one of these, a couple of my film heroes say this, there is no self-expression. And Cecil Taylor, the jazz pianist, said, I'm just a vehicle and this stuff just comes through me. So is writing and dancing more self-expression or more you're a vehicle for whatever technologies, environments, and cultures are dominant?
Okay, you're going to have to say the question again
Yeah,
because I'm trying to sort it out.
Right. It's sort of like, as a creative spirit, are you more sort of a reflection of your environment, an extension, a vehicle of what's going around you, or are you more self-expression? I know it's both, but is there a little, or just suss out how much of it is a self-expression and how much is you're reflecting of what's going on around you?
Well, if I think about my own stories, it certainly is self-expression. But since I write about experiences and observations,
Yeah,
and memories, it certainly involves the world around me.
yeah. So it's
So I would say both.
Both, yeah. Can art making be egoless?
I think that would be kind of hard to do.
Yeah. Is perception reality?
It's part of it, I think.
Yeah.
But I don't think, I mean, what you perceive is only what you perceive.
Yeah.
There's probably more out there, much more.
Yeah. What do you think the motive of the cave artist was? The cave dancers, the cave musicians, your hunch or guess. Why were they doing these things? Creating art, drawing on the walls of the caves, dancing around the campfire.
I think a lot of it may have had to do with their religious beliefs or superstitions.
Yeah.
But they were human beings. So from that point of view, I think I would have to say that their art, their music, and their dance in many ways serve them as it does us.
Yeah. So the motive hasn't changed in essence.
I think it may have grown.
Yeah.
I think they may have been more limited to perhaps religious purposes.
Yeah.
Although, we certainly can't rule out frivolity.
Frivolity is important, isn't it?
I mean, I wasn't there, so I can't be sure, but if you can find a caveman and ask him, that's about the best I could do on that one.
Yeah. What's the function of music?
No one has ever asked me that question before. This is as close as I can come on the spur of the moment. It's the manifestation of many of those things that we are capable of hearing, but maybe not always thinking about or discussing or living at that moment. That's about the best I can do.
Yeah. That's interesting because you're saying it's a manifestation of what we're capable of, but we don't actually reach it, or sometimes the composer does.
Well, the problem, it's not a problem, but music is a mathematical system.
It's good.
Harmonies or the lack of them are things that we can hear in theory and then bring into being as music.
Yeah.
So I would say it's a manifestation of those things that we are capable of hearing and that we want to bring forth. And they're not necessarily literal. I mean, you can't just say, okay, I'm going to talk this piece of music, because clearly that's two different media.
Yeah, because I'm going to read you some of the, I've been asking this question for years, and I just like any reactions to any of these. What is the function of music? Someone said, there is none. and Igor Stravinsky gave lectures on saying music means nothing, which is pretty heavy, because John Cage says music, he learned from his, Eastern philosophy teacher, it's to soothe the soul and make it susceptible for divine intervention. So that's sort of like back to your, why do we cave art, is you were saying it could be religious. He's implying,
or spiritual in some way.
Spiritual divine intervention. Mickey Hart, the drummer for the Dead, said it's a warning system. They're coming to steal our food, so I'm going to hit the logs this way, and that's a signal. It's a signal. Survival, Dylan Buston, my friend, said dance. The function of music is to dance. Norman Zamchek says to keep us from going insane. David Moss, I think, nailed it. He said, it's the sound of being alive. And that's, you kind of implied that, be here now, live in the moment. Then it's all the regular entertainment, pleasure, express creativity, connection, community, ceremony, ritual, learning, stir emotion, self-awareness, healing. It's a healing force. Music is definitely a healing force. But here's the one I recently got. I'm curious your thoughts. This guy said, what's the function of music? To hypnotize people to be themselves.
Well, I think I think that may be one thing that music can do. I mean, if you imagine a bunch of people, say at a nightclub, and the music comes on, they all start dancing. They're behaving in a way that they wouldn't behave at a polite dinner or in church, or they're just out there and they're hanging out and they're doing what they want to do.
It frees their spirit up.
So I would say that that's certainly one thing that can be said about music.
So my friend said the 3 T's of music are taste, technique, and theory. So technique, you learned how to play the piano. Theory, you knew the structure. How does one acquire taste?
I think that's a matter of experience and being aware of how those manifestations of the theory and the technique, as they come together and make music, being aware of how that affects. Oh, geez. Ask me the question again, because I'm getting lost.
How does one acquire taste in music? Like, why did you gravitate towards this certain type of music and not that type of music?
Oh, okay. That's a little bit easier. A certain kinds of music speak to me a little bit louder. Some kinds of music don't speak to me at all. Some kinds of music I respect, but I don't feel that I understand them to a degree that they are worthy of being understood. I think only experience and noticing as you go through life those things that leave one with a negative or destructive feeling, those are the things that you wouldn't want to include in a tasteful endeavor.
Right. What's more fundamental, music or language?
I think it's probably music.
Yeah. Tell me an instrumental that makes you laugh.
The Vibra Slap.
Is that the name of a song?
No, oh, you mean I thought you meant like an instrument.
Yeah. The Vibra Slap, though, can make music. Yeah, that's an instrument
Yeah.
that makes you laugh. How about the name of a song that's an instrumental that makes you laugh?
Okay, there can be no voice in it. It's just an instrument.
Yeah. No words, no voice. Yeah.
I can't think of a song, but there is in music humor where sometimes musical development is going along and then the composer drops something in there the way you would drop a clever line in a conversation that made everybody laugh.
Hello.
And in that sense, I mean, if I was listening to that and all of a sudden the composer had dropped a musical comment into their flow that was just surprising and unexpected, like the answer to a riddle or a joke, that would make me laugh.
Yeah. In fact, you talked about music and math. That's what Thelonious Monk said. Music is math. And I always say an instrumental that makes me laugh is like Little Rudy Tooty by Thelonious Monk. It's like
yeah, because it's unexpected.
Yeah. Okay, just in general, Carolyn, what's more important, conviction or compromise?
I guess it would have to be conviction. Because if you don't believe in certain things, then you have no platform from which to compromise.
Yeah.
Like diving from a diving board. You know, you got to have the diving board first.
That's a good analogy.
Or at least the edge of the pool.
Yeah. With your accomplishments in life, how do you rate these three elements? Luck, skill, and ambition. What's played the biggest role, second and third?
None of them.
Wow, that's amazing, because I have other words that people have suggested and they go, you left out this or that. Before I tell you some of those other words, what in your accomplishments, what would you have said led you to have your accomplishments?
Curiosity.
Yeah. And you got curiosity more from your parents, how they raised you, or more on your own?
I think on my own.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, because here's the other ones. They go, you left out purpose, destiny, persistence, necessity. T.S. Eliot said that poetry is outing your inner dialogue. What language is your inner dialogue in?
English.
But it's more like metaphorically, what form is your inner consciousness in?
Thoughts. That's the best I can do on that one.
That's good. Thought. Lewis Carroll said, I believe as many as 6 impossible things before breakfast. Have you believed in any impossible things lately?
You mean believe that they might be possible?
Yeah, I mean, you put it in the context you want. That sounds feasible.
I'm having trouble with trying to believe in something that's impossible. If I feel that it is impossible, then it's kind of hard to believe in it.
Yeah.
That's the best I can do on that one.
No, that's funny, because the word believe has the word lie in the middle of it.
Yeah.
So
what's your point, Gerry?
That words evoke more in their meaning, because like Louis Buñuel says, I'm for anyone who seeks the truth, but I part ways when they claim they found it. Now that's fun.
And people go, yeah, that's cool. I agree with that. And one guy goes, no, that's bullshit. Because if I want to seek something, it's because I want to find it. So the cliche goes, if the journey is more important than the destination, why do we have to seek or name a destination if the journey is more important?
Well, it depends on how literal you want to get. If you want to take a vacation to the Grand Canyon, then, the destination is important.
Yeah.
Probably a lot more important than getting there, because you're going to drive like hell, and it's going to be hot, and, but a more poetic a more poetic destination might present a more meaningful experience getting there.
Yeah. That's good, because people who changed the world forever were sitting in Paris in the 20s just drinking coffee and kicking back, as you said. They're just like slackers. Hemingway, Picasso, and Joyce said, I can find an epiphany in everydayness.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I'm curious. This is another great hero of mine from that period is Eartha Kitt. Truth is a theory that is constantly being disproved. Only lies, it seems, last forever. So she's bringing up this idea of how, why are there lies in life? Why do we seek truth? I mean, we have to realize that they both exist. And I love how only lies, it seems, last forever, go on forever. Marcel Proust actually asks the question, on what occasion do you lie?
When I need to get rid of an item,
Yeah,
be it a person or a situation, it doesn't happen very often, but I have used that. I have used lying to move a person or situation out of the way so that I can continue in a more positive line of action.
Yeah. Carolyn, it seems you're more an optimist than a pessimist, would you say?
Yes, I think so.
Now, did you get that more from the way your parents raised you or on your own?
I think I must have got it from my parents as well as on my own, because I don't remember, even though we've had plenty of differences, I don't remember my parents always being pessimistic or always going, oh, it's going to be terrible. Oh, we can't afford it. Oh my God, look what happened. I mean, they didn't manifest in that way.
Yeah.
I mean, once in a while, of course, something bad would happen, but it wasn't a way of life to think in dark terms.
Yeah. Well, tell me a major element of your creativeness that stayed the same and a major element that's changed in the years you've been being creative.
Well, I can tell you what has changed. I can give you an example.
Yeah.
It probably would apply to choreography as well, but in writing, some of the things that I write, I actually wrote about 40 years ago, but then, I find them and I go, oh, that's a good story, but geez, too many clever quips and, just too much self-conscious cleverness. Get rid of all of it. And then I would rewrite the story.
Wow. How did you come to that revelation that the cleverness is... My friend says that very thing. He says cleverness is overrated. It's people, they think cleverness is beauty and truth. And he goes, no. Well, how did you come to understand that?
Because let's say
people?
A story that I'm working on right now that I haven't sent out. I have a story list of people I send my stories out to, and they can respond if they like or not.
Right.
The one that I'm working on right now comes from one that I wrote in I believe it was 1980. So it's over 40 years old.
Yeah.
And I'm reading through it, and there's, all these like clever quips and stuff. Not horrendously so, but just enough to make an educated reader see the writer as, you know, still developing and not really mature in their writing.
Right.
And I remember something that Aaron said, because he didn't have formal training as a writer either, other than his general education, but he was a really good writer. And he said, there's an old saying, slay your darlings.
Slay your
darlings. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That is good. I like that. Very good. And so now something that's stayed the same in your years of being creative as a dancer and being just creative in general, what's one thing that you think stayed the same?
The desire to express aesthetic experiences,
Yeah.
emotional experiences, happenings.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of the core of doing it all.
Yep. Really good. Moshe Feldenkrais works with healing and movement. He says it's literally possible to identify a weakness and then incorporate it to become a strength, rather than we're normally taught to overcome a weakness. Tell me a weakness you turned into a strength.
Oh, dear. You know, I don't know that I can answer that question very well, but we'll try this. Allowing things to bother me too much, but then later being able to use that as part of my creativity, particularly with the writing.
Particular to the what?
With the writing.
With the writing, yeah. It bothers you too much, and then you just incorporate it into your critical thinking skills. Like
then, you know, if I write about it later, maybe it's something that I shouldn't have worried about that much, or I shouldn't have been that offended, or whatever. But it made for a nice writing piece.
Yeah.
Later on in my life.
Yeah. That's like, how do we become discerning with this whole thing? Okay. Fill in the blank. Anger can be a productive emotion when
it helps you to understand how you really feel about something, and when it motivates you to make things better.
Yeah. What's the most significant difference between men and women, physical aside?
Well, I would say hormonal, but since all of that, I mean, physical comes from that, I that's maybe not the correct or a good answer. The difference between men and women. Okay, I'm going out on a limb here. I think it's possible that in the long run, if men and women, whatever their propensities might be, make a long-term enough effort to understand themselves and each other, it's possible that men and women can become quite alike in many things, so that differences would be minimal.
Yeah.
They would be the physical or the hormonal, or, you know, whatever your sexual proclivities might be.
Yeah. That's, you know, that's my favorite answer. There is none. People actually say there is no difference, but we want 80.
We're so used to thinking there is. Just like we've been used to for so long thinking that there's only pure male and pure female.
Yeah.
Or pure gay and
Yeah.
pure straight.
Yeah.
All of this stuff is on a continuum.
Hello. Yeah.
And that's something that we all, I mean, I grew up in a world that believed, you know, nobody discussed things like bisexuality and that sort of thing when I was growing up.
Right.
There were men and there were women, and then there were those weird people who were gay or
Yeah.
queer.
Yeah.
That was the world I grew up in.
Yeah.
But those were unfortunate labels for the variations that you find on a whole continuum of human manifestation.
Yeah.
And that's what we need to learn to understand.
It's really good. There's a line that goes, "You create what you resist." Bob Goldthwait, the comedian, has said, "You are what you hate." Louis Buñuel.
Gosh, I hope not.
Louis Buñuel said, "Thank God I'm an atheist." So basically, I'm not saying to agree or disagree, but just one creates what one resists. Just your thoughts on that idea. You create what you resist. Not you, Carolyn, but one creates what one resists. Any thoughts on that line?
One creates what one resists. I do better with one. What was the other one? Was one becomes what one hates?
Yeah, no, you.
Oh,
are,
man,
you
that-
are what you hate.
Okay, that would be terrible because I hate cheese and I do not want to become cheese. But, you know, I can't stand the smell. It smells like an outhouse. It tastes like an outhouse. And I do not want to become an outhouse.
You are smart. I'm having a fun time. We got about 15 more minutes, Carolyn. This is really good. Okay.
Make it count, Gerry.
Okay, here's 5 quick Alan Watts questions, just off the top of your head in a couple words.
Okay.
1, who started it all?
The very first person who did something on the planet.
Beautiful. Are we going to make it?
You betcha.
3, where do we put it?
Wherever we need it.
4, who's cleaning it up?
All of us.
5, is it serious?
Yes.
Very good. Now, how do you find peace of mind?
By making sure as much as I can that I don't screw things up. For example, I wasn't worried about the interview at all, but I was really worried about getting here, no matter how I got here, whether I used my car or the bus. I'm always afraid when I have things to do or obligations that somehow I'm going to screw up.
Yeah.
I'm going to get lost, trip and break my nose, be late, forget something.
Yeah.
Forget something really important.
Yeah.
Say something I will be really sorry for.
Yeah.
I'm always afraid of those things.
Yeah.
You know, whereas when I finally get to the task, which in this case is this interview, then I'm fine with it.
Done amazing. It's been so much fun. If you were walking down the street today and you met yourself as a 12-year-old, what would you say to your 12-year-old self?
Ignore what most people are into. It's pretty mediocre. Go for the things that you really care about, because that's what's going to make you who you will become.
Oh, that is beautiful. Which way should toilet paper come off the roll, over or under?
Well, I like under, but people say that over is more sanitary. I always hang it under.
Wow, that's funny because 90% say over and the patent has it going over. But the people who say under have their reasons. So if a publisher was going to release your autobiography off the top of your head, what would the title be?
One girl.
They want to scent the glue in the binding. What smell?
Pittosporum.
What is it?
Pittosporum.
Wow, I don't know that smell. What is it?
You can, sometimes when you go out at night, you can smell it. It's a plant.
Oh, wow.
And Aaron would say, Carolyn, come out and look at the push pins and smell the pittosporum.
Oh,
Now,
man.
the push pins were these flowers that have what looked like a push pin in the middle of them.
Yes.
So I would always call them push pins. You'd come out and the push pins are out and smell the pittosporum.
Oh, that is beautiful. If a statue was built in your honor, where would you want it displayed and what would it be made of?
Glass?
And where?
I think maybe in a big city, kind of in an open area. Say if you were in a large city with a lot of tall buildings and business around, an open area.
Nice. Tell me something good you never had and you never want.
Something good I never had and I never want.
Yeah, it's good. You never had it, but you never want it.
Fame and fortune.
Yeah. The answers I get the most are fame, money, and heroin. Fame and fortune. You got two of the three most. Very good. If you were in a vat of vomit up to your neck and someone threw a bag of shit at your face, what would you do?
Well, try to swim out or climb out and breathe as shallowly as possible.
That is a lot of good strategies there. Thank you. What's the cultural shift you see developing today that inspires you?
I don't. The cultural shift that I see is more and more cyberspace taking over everything.
Yeah.
Human beings doing less.
Yeah.
For example, I recently went into what is it? I think it was a Pollo Loco. Well, it's not recent. It's been 2 or 3 years ago. And I went up to the counter to make an order.
Yeah.
She goes, no, come over here. You're going to do this over here. And she goes over to this machine thing. And I said, no, I don't want to do that. I just want to I want to do my order orally. And she said, no, you do it on the machine here. So I said to her, you are a person. This is a machine. If you do not know the difference, I do not want to do business here. And she just walked that way and I walked right out the door and I have never been back.
I've had that same, like they don't
one of the last times that you've really got me now.
Yeah.
One of the last times that I had to call AAA with my old car.
Yeah.
I called AAA. And I get an automated response. And I'm like, excuse me,
God.
I'm having an emergency here.
Yeah.
I need to speak to a person. So I didn't know what to do. You know, you keep asking for a person and it doesn't happen. So finally I called their main number and I got a hold of a person. And I just said, I'm sorry, I am involved in a situation here. And there's some special circumstances. I do not want to speak to an automated helper. I'm having a problem. I need a human being to help me and to answer some special questions. Please
help me. And did they?
Yeah. Please connect me to someone live. I mean, that's the shift that I see, and I do not see it as being good.
Yeah.
And the other thing that's frightening about it is not enough people are getting this.
Yeah. No, I understand what you're saying.
I could go on, but you probably don't want me to.
Well, the one I like is when I get robocalls on my landline, because I don't have a cell phone, I go, I am a computer. Please take me off your list. Remove. Glad you laughed. I always wonder if they call back and go, dude, you made my day. That was great. So I can't call back for a computer.
You don't have a cell phone?
No, but Susie does. So I mean, I live in a cell phone world.
Yeah.
You know.
But you don't have a cell phone.
No.
May I shake your hand?
Yes.
Not that they're necessarily bad,
No.
but if you are someone who can live without some of this stuff that is taking over human activity, you're doing some small good in this world.
Yeah, well, I hope so. I mean, it's bad because I go to the library every day and I like to do my email at home but I also like to do it at the library.
Hmm.
I can't do it at the library unless Susie comes, because they won't let me on unless I get a special code text to her cell phone. So I can't, I mean, but AOL just changed that. So for whatever years I've been doing email, 15 years, it was always okay. I could go anywhere and do my email. Now I have to have access to a cell phone, Susie's, or then I got to change the cell phone. You know, it's like ridiculous. So I just learned how to adapt, but it is frustrating.
Gerry, do not come back in 100 years, because when you do, you will be able to sit here with a beer in hand. You will be able to have sex and birth a baby on the internet without lifting a finger. Now, if that's the kind of world you want to live in,
yeah,
you are a lot different than me.
yeah. You know, I want to live in a world that we're basically hybrid. You've been live on TV worldwide for almost 90 minutes. When we're done in 5 or 10 minutes, it will be up there forever. You're talking for for an hour and a half.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be on YouTube forever. Now, we did this by sitting in front of each other and giving eye contact.
Mm-hmm.
But it is a hybrid situation. Guess where television, telephone, that's what we're on. Television, telephone was first shown in the New York World's Fair in 1939.
Mm-hmm.
The year Finnegan's Wake came out by James Joyce, which is basically he invented television, telephone. But in 1968, it became a reality because we saw it in a movie called 2001: A Space Odyssey by Stanley Kubrick.
That movie.
The guy's up in the spaceship and he calls his daughter and wishes her a happy birthday on television, telephone. So we can keep the human factor involved no matter how we progress.
But we have to work at it. I have a computer. I have a cell phone.
Yeah.
That's fine with me.
Yeah.
But it's not my way of life.
Yes. That's the important.
I'm not addicted to it.
Yeah. Well, let's go to this one and then a close out. We got a couple more.
Okay.
This is Utah Phillips. It said anarchy is making rules for yourself and not other people. When you study the etymological root of the word freedom, it's the same thing, making one's own laws for one's own self. What does freedom mean to you now?
It means being able to determine the shape and progress of my life as I see fit, as long as I consider that I do live in a world with other people. I can't just go slamming around.
Yeah. What's the difference between art and science? Or is there a difference?
I think so. Because science, looks at things and has particular protocols to make sure that people aren't making assumptions before they make decisions. Whereas as an artist, you have a blank canvas or a blank stage or whatever, you can make decisions without having to do a lot of testing.
Yeah, it's good because Jean Cocteau said, art is science made clearer.
Well, poetically speaking, I think you'd have to go with him. You know?
McLuhan said that James Joyce solved numerous problems that science had not even formulated as problems yet. And Tony Conrad said, artists break rules that aren't even made yet. So what's a question that remains unresolved for you?
I guess basically how I will live the rest of my life, what I will be able to do.
Yeah.
How long a time I have.
Yeah. Can you forget to die?
Wait a minute, what?
Well, this question, people have trouble because they don't know if I'm asking it literally or metaphorically. So can you forget to die?
Well, poetically, I suppose you can.
Yeah.
I don't know how I could possibly literally forget to die.
Yeah. Well, then,
since it's not up to me.
Yeah. Well, then McLuhan said all words are metaphorical. Then what is the word literal a metaphor for?
I don't know. You got me.
I'm
stumped.
I've stumped myself with that one.
I would have to think about that for quite a while. We don't have quite a while.
Well, here we go. 3 more and we're out of here. This one is, how has dance shaped your behavior and how has writing shaped your behavior?
Dance has taught me about, at least for me, long lines. So I like to dress with long lines. I don't like drapey stuff and stuff that's cut real weird, so it looks like the dress has been ripped and stuff like that. I like long, simple lines, and I got that from the dance sensibility.
Wow, long lines.
And as far as the writing is concerned, it's made me more conscious of expressing things in ways that make it comfortable for people to perceive. When I write, I try to write in such a way that when you read it, it flows for you.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of times, even when I'm reading really well-known, accomplished artists, I read a paragraph or two and I go, what? And I have to go back and reread it. I try to write so that doesn't happen. So that from the first word, it just, as one person who described my writing said, it just flows.
Yeah.
And that's what I try to do.
That's funny because I have a quote that's similar that I haven't used much, but I gotta say it right now. It is Elmore Leonard. The job of the writer is to get the reader to the next sentence.
Yeah, and if you do that clumsily, then people have to keep going back and going, wait a minute, what did he say here? And how did that sentence go? And wait a minute, was there a period there? Or is that a comma?
Yeah.
Is he referring back? I don't want to have to do that when I'm reading something.
Yeah. It's beautiful because they're connected, Carolyn, I think. The dance was the long lines, and then the writing is flowing.
Mm-hmm.
They seem to.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that, but yeah, I see your point.
Thornton Wilder said, art is confession. Art is the secret told. But art is not only the desire to tell one's secret, it's the desire to tell it and hide it at the same time. You've laid your cards on the table for 90 minutes. I'm not insinuating you haven't already answered this. What's it really all about for you?
It's all about living my life and manifesting in whatever ways seem to move things forward and give me satisfaction.
Yeah. Very good. What gives you the most optimism?
Not allowing myself to fall into old people habits.
Yeah. What's an old people habit? Like, what's one?
Well, people allow themselves to run down. They're less active, get less exercise.
Yeah.
Maybe a lot of times get lazy about stuff, including like eating healthily and not dwelling on negative things. Like a lot of times something will come up in my mind, something that maybe happened 40 years ago, and it really pissed me off. And I think to myself, Carolyn, what good is it going to do to moon over this something that you can't change? It happened 40 years ago. No one gives a damn.
Yeah.
Stop. So I've developed this kind of a technique where if something comes up like that and it's something that kind of bothers me, but there's nothing to be gained, I just go stop. And I go on to another thought.
That's really good. I like that. I want to try that one. Because the first question I asked you is, what's the best thing for a human being? Wilhelm Reich said the best thing for a human being is another human being. And they asked Groucho Marx, the last question I asked you, what gives you the most optimism? And he said, other people. So it sure been fun spending this time with another person because it was you, Carolyn. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gerry, for inviting me.
Yeah,
It was
well,
fun to do.
Let's just look at this thing that oh my God, we have 5 seconds left. So you got to do a bonus question. You're on the last televised moment in the history of the world. What would you say?
Bye, everybody.
Well, I'll come in and say, Carolyn, it's been a pleasure having you on. I'm probably wrong about everything. You practically did a commercial for us. And even though I'm going to hit the end broadcast button now, I hope this never ends and we can keep talking forever and ever.
Yay.
Thank you so much. Now
Thank
watch
you.
this. I'm going to hit this button.